Eugene Kontorovich, thanks for joining us again. The UN General Assembly just passed a resolution really trying to get Jews out of the old city and Judea and Samaria. What's your reaction to this resolution?
It's just another in a long history of blatantly anti-Semitic, anti-Israel resolutions by the United Nations. There's really nothing new here. I can say 1975, the year I was born, the United Nations voted that the very idea of the Jewish state is racist, colonialist, and bad. So there's nothing new here, but it's a tactic to increase diplomatic pressure on Israel. And the idea is that in a year, when Jews are still living in Judea and Samaria, Israel has no intention of removing them, it creates another window to beat up on Israel, and they're hoping there's going to be an administration in the White House that's ready to take stronger measures and to use this non-binding, legally irrelevant resolution as a cover, as an excuse. And I gotta say, you know, the United Nations is supposed to stand for human rights, decency. Is there any other situation in the world where the United Nations passes a resolution saying a group of people is not allowed to live in an area? And that's what they're doing. They're putting a no Jews sign on parts of the biblical Holy Land. And that's extraordinary and it's shocking, and I think it, you know, is yet another piece of evidence that it's time to revisit our relationship with the United Nations. I think it's also another piece of evidence that Hamas is being rewarded diplomatically for October 7th. The amount of diplomatic wins they have scored, even as they lose the war, since October 7th is extraordinary. They've gotten ICC investigations, ICJ cases, recognition of their state by many countries, these moves at the United Nations. All of this is teaching Islamic terrorists a lesson. You want the world on your side? Kill Jews. Is
it unique that there was actually a time limit? They're saying in 12 months, or is that just a window to?
It's a bit of a, it's like a gimmick, right? It's designed to so that like at the end of that they can say, look, time's up. Nothing actually happens, right? It's a non-binding resolution, but it's designed to create an atmosphere of pressure.
Turning to another subject, right now there's been, just a few days ago, there was a massive pager, beeper attack. Some people are saying that was illegal or that was against international law. What was your reaction?
It was not only legal, it was one of the most humane and precise military strikes, maybe, of all time. In war, especially when you're fighting an enemy who's in cities mixed in with civilians, civilian casualties are almost impossible to avoid. This was an attack that was designed to specifically pick out Hezbollah leaders because they're the ones who were issued the pagers. These are not pagers that they got at an electronics shop, right? These are military pagers and walkie-talkies that were bought by Hezbollah and issued to senior commanders. So putting explosives in them is entirely not illegal. Any more so than, say, blowing up railroad tracks in World War II to fight Nazi Germany. Right? The fact that there may be civilians around does not make it illegal, and I think when we hear claims like this, we see that people want to say, essentially, that Israel has the right to defend itself, just not with any possible means. So this was not only legal, it was humane, and if people say, oh, this is a glimpse into the future of warfare, it's really scary. You know, I think we should only pray that the future of warfare is so precise that people can be picked out of a crowd and members of an enemy military can be targeted without harming anyone around them.
Yeah, and right now there's also the Northern Arrows campaign right now, just in the last 48 hours. What about how is Israel prosecuting the war in terms of international law?
So extremely precisely, Israel strikes military targets. That's the basic rule. Israel strikes military targets. We see that Hezbollah tries to embed its military targets, much like Hamas, amongst civilians. They put rocket launchers in people's houses. They put rocket launchers near the United Nations. But Israel is only striking military targets, and that is completely permissible. And I want to say, as we as Israel's turning now to the northern front with Lebanon, we're going to see, I think, exactly the same kind of condemnations of Israel defending itself as we did with Gaza. And it's ironic, because with Gaza, people say, the Palestinians, if only they had their own state, they wouldn't do things like October 7th. But what's the argument with Lebanon? The Lebanese have their own state. It's run by Hezbollah, but they have their own country, and yet they cannot leave Israel alone. They've been shooting rockets at Israel, missiles at Israel, since October 7th. and there's 60,000 people who, Israelis, who fled their homes in the north. So right now, northern Israel is essentially emptied of people because of the Hezbollah attacks. Israel needs to make all of its territory safe for people to live in.
If Israel is trying to target Hezbollah targets inside Lebanon, what does this say about Hezbollah as they try to embed themselves, excuse me, into civilian areas?
So obviously, Hezbollah, is not seeking to avoid civilian casualties. Civilian casualties might even be good for it, in the way that it's good for Hamas in Gaza. They also seek to, take advantage of United Nations facilities, and clearly it's against international law.
Right. Eugene Kontorovich, thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. Great to be here.